Okay, so welcome to the second online class, and in this class what we'll be doing is we'll be doing the second individual project. Second individual project is located right here, and this is the file for that project, so I'll open it up now and we'll get to work on it. Okay, so here's the worksheet open, and as we can see here, the requirement is that you put your student ID and your name in here so it can be easily identified. And we do have 4 things to do over here. Each of them are worth 25%. The explanation of what each allows you to do is contained in the sheet itself. So goal seek, for example, is here, and the instructions for goal seek is right here. Same thing with solver, scenario manager, and dashboard. So carrying on with the theme from class, what we're doing is we're discovering how we can manipulate information and make information more meaningful, and also carrying on with the theme from class is the fact that we don't want you to enter a lot of formulas and things like that. We want you to use the power of the spreadsheet. Okay, so let's start with goal seek then. In goal seek, the first thing that we're asked to do, it says from the schedule of numbers shown here, it shows that the total monthly payment on a $300,000 house is $1923.19. Suppose that the potential homeowner estimates that he or she can make a monthly payment of $2,500 and would then need to know what the cost of the house should be, assuming that all other values remain unchanged. Use goal seek to determine the cost of the house and make the payment $2,500. Okay, so it's easier than it is to read the problem. Let's see how this works. We go to data. Most of these operations that we'll be using today are found here under what if. Under what if, you have scenario manager. We'll be using that later. We have goal seek. Another one that we're going to be using today is solver, and solver is not located here, but it is located over here on the bar. So let's go to goal seek then, and with goal seek we'll see that there's only 3 things that we have to fill in. We have to set a cell to a value by changing a cell, and what we're going to do is we're going to set the cell C13, which is showing this payment, but we want to set it to 2,500, and we're going to change the cost of the house. We don't know what the cost of the house is going to be, so we set the cell in C13 to be 2,500 by changing this cell here. And you see I'm using these buttons on the side here that allow me to point to the cells instead of typing in the cell addresses. So I've got set cell C13 to 2,500 by changing C3, and if I click OK, it's going to go ahead and do it, and we'll see the results right away. So there's the results. This is just a little summary of the results that we have here, and you can see that the cost of the house went up to $377,980. Nothing else changed, but our monthly payment is bang on $2,500. So we just say OK there, and that's all you have to do for this worksheet, and we can move on to solver. Okay, so with solver then, you may or may not have this installed on your particular installation of Microsoft Excel. To see that you have it installed or you don't have it installed, go to the data ribbon. I'm using Excel 2010 for Windows, so Solver is over here along with the other analysis tools that I have turned on. If you don't have it turned on, then it's just a matter of going to File and then Options, go down here to Add-ins, and you see there's Excel add-ins down here. Just click Go and put a check mark beside the ones that you want turned on. So in my case, I have Analysis Tool Pack turned on, and I have Solver add-in turned on, and just click OK. So put a check mark beside the ones you want and just click OK, and that'll take you back to the worksheet, and you should see Solver lit up over here. Okay, so in this one we have the instructions. The Brewing Company would like to know what the maximum revenue would be given in the following constraints. They have 291 steins available. So here's the 291 that we see in the worksheet. They only carry enough Sydney Stout to serve 153 clients. So here's the 153 that we see down here. And the bar service can only serve 693 glasses or steins in a shift. So using the solver function, put in these constraints and calculate the maximum revenue. Okay, so what else we see on the worksheet here is the cost. So we have $5.25, we have $6.75, and we have $7.75. So there is formulas put in here. So for example, if you click here, you'll see that it's C4 multiplied by C5, but there's nothing in C5. So we're not going to get a subtotal here, we're not going to get a subtotal here, we're not going to get one here. And if we don't get subtotals, then how can we get total revenue? Because total revenue is the addition of these three subtotals. So we don't have any of that showing up. And the reason being is that we simply don't know how many of these we're going to sell, or how many of these we're going to sell, or how many of these. And that's what the solver is going to do for us. Over here we do have some zeros as well. And what's going on over here is that the pint glasses is the total of C5. So that just simply equals C5. And then the stout steins is the total of these two cells right here, so C9 and C13. So we have really two types of glasses, if you want to call it that. We have the pint glasses and the steins. These two together add up to the total served, and the total served we know is a constraint of 693. So whatever ends up going in this cell right here can't be more than 693. And as well, we will see that these constraints come into play. So let me just go ahead and start this so that we can see how it works. So again, we're under the data ribbon. We go to what if analysis. We go to just pause this for a minute. Okay, here we are back again. So we go to the data ribbon. We click on solver. It wasn't under the what if analysis at all. And what we want to do is we want to set the objective here on F4 to be the maximum revenue. And F4 is going to be our total revenue cell that we see here. And we can set that to max, min, or any particular value that we want to obtain. But for this this question, they want us to maximize the revenue. So we want to maximize F4 by changing, and we're going to be changing these three cells here, the pint glasses, the pint steins, and the pint steins for this type of Sydney Stout as well. So what we do is we type in, or actually we're not going to type in, it's easier to point. So if I go over here and I click on the the pointer tool, it'll allow me to go back into the worksheet and point to C5, and then I'll put in a comma, and then I'll point to C9, I'll put in another comma, and that comma you do have to type in yourself. So then the last one I'm going to click on is C13. So I've got them all in here. I got C5, C9, and C13 all separated by commas. Okay, so that's my changing cells. I'm going to change those 3 cells over here. And now what I have to do is I have to add in my constraints. So I click on the add button here, and the first thing it's asked me for is the first constraint. Now the first constraint is C13 less than or equal to F13. So C13 is over here, and it has to be less than or equal to, so I don't have to change that, but if I did want to, you can see that there's options here to change that. And my constraint is in F13. So the Sydney Stout over here, which is C13, is sold in pint steins, and those have to be less than 153. So that's why it's C13 less than or equal to F13. So I say OK there, and you see it puts the first constraint in. Now the second constraint, I'm going to click on add again to get back to that box. The second constraint is F8 less than or equal to F12. So I'll click on my pointer tool again. I just go over here to F8, or over here F8. Here's F8. And F8 has to be less than or equal to F12. So those are our stout steins, and we were told in the problem that we only have 291 of them. So whatever F8 adds up to right here, it has to be less than or equal to F12, which is 291. So we'll say OK there. And we've got our second constraint in. So I add my third constraint. And my third constraint is F9 less than or equal to F14. So F9, this is our total served, and it has to be less than or equal to that 693 that we see down here. So just click on the constraint, and I click on F14. So we've got F9 less than or equal to F14, and we'll say OK there. So we've got everything in that we need. We've got the 3 cells, the C5, C9, C13. These are the blanks over here that we talked about earlier. These are the constraints, and these relate back to the problem. And they also include these 3 key numbers that we have already in the worksheet. So we just go ahead and we click on solve. And you can see that there was a slight delay there, but it was going through a lot of calculations to get to this point. So this shows us that our total revenue is $4,227.75. It figured out that we had to sell 402 of those, 138 of those, and 153 of those. The 153 is not surprising because we only had 153 Sydney Stout available. But the 291 had to be broken down, or actually had to be a combination of this 153 and the 138 for a total of 291. And then because this beer is sold in glasses, the 402 had to also be calculated along with the 291, and these together had to be 693 because 693 is our server capacity. So you see there's a lot of things going on here, and even this is a small problem. But Excel figured it out for us, and we can say that this is our total revenue. This is, in fact, this is our maximum revenue if we sold everything we had for sale, and our servers were 100% utilized. The 693 represents our server capacity of 693. So we keep the solver solution. We say OK there, and that's what we end up with for this worksheet. So the next worksheet then that we'll move on to is the scenario manager. Scenario manager is a little bit longer to set up, but basically what it is we already have numbers. These are the numbers that we already have, and we want to protect these. We don't want to get rid of them. We don't want to type over them. In fact, in here there is some formulas. You see here, there's a payment formula in here. There's another formula in here. There's one in here. So we do want to protect those, and we don't want to lose those formulas. But we do want to say, what if, right? What if the cost of the house was $300,000? What if the down payment was $5,000? What if the interest rate was 4%? And what if the repayment in years was 30? So this would be kind of the best case, and then we have worst case, and then we have most likely. None of these are the same as what currently is there. So we kind of have 4 different scenarios going on, if you will. We have the current one, and then we have best case, worst case, and most likely. And at the end of all this, what we want to do is we want to create a scenario summary with the proper labels, and we want to actually place this scenario summary on a separate worksheet. So before we get to that point, we have to put these scenarios in. So in order to do that, we go to what if, we go to scenario manager. You see right now scenario manager is blank. What we're going to do is we're going to add these 3 scenarios in one at a time. So let's add the first one in. The first one is going to be called best case, and we're going to change cells, and the cells that we're going to change are these cells right here. So right from cost of house right down to repayment in years, because we have new values for these 4 things right here, and right here. So C3 to C6 are the cells that we're going to change. And we just click on OK here, and then it will ask us for the new values. So we just type in the new values, like 300,000, and then the new value for down payment is 5,000. The interest rate is 0.04. That's already 0.04, so we don't have to change it. And then the repayment in years is 30, so we type in 30 there, and then we click on add. So add will bring us back to adding another one, and it saves the one that we just typed in. So this one is going to be called worst case. And we're still going to change C3 to C6, and we're going to say OK there. And in worst case, it's going to be 200,000. The down payment is going to be 20,000, so I can just leave that there. The interest rate is going to be 6%, so that's 0.06. And the repayment in years is going to be 15, so I can leave that there. And instead of clicking add this time, I'll say OK. And you can see what we're building up here. We're building up best case, worst case, and then we've got one more to do. So I am going to click add again, and this is the most likely. So I type in most likely, and I click OK. And the most likely is 250,000. The down payment is going to be 15,000. The interest rate is going to be 0.05, and the years are going to be 20. Okay, so now we've got the three. We've got best case, worst case, most likely. Now what you can do with these is you can show them with the show button down here. So if I want to show best case, for example, I can just click on show. There's what the best case would work out to. If I wanted to click on worst case, click on that, say show, click on most likely, show, and that's the three of them there. Now the other thing that we asked for in this problem is to show a summary. So the summary button is right here. So if we click on summary, scenario summary, we just say okay there. What it will actually do is it'll actually create this new sheet for us. You see that this tab didn't exist before. It's called scenario summary, and it has the current value. It has the best case, the worst case, and the most likely. So the current value, because we showed the most likely last, this matches this. They're both the same. So the idea then of putting in the values here, you know, instead of having the cell addresses, we could actually type in what they are. So what they are is the cost of the house, the down payment, the interest rate, and the repayment term. So what you could do is you could highlight these, click on the home ribbon, say copy, and then go back to the scenario summary, and you can simply paste those in. And we don't really need those, so you can just highlight them, right click and say clear contents, and then we got the cost of the house, the down payment, the interest rate, and the repayment in years. So, you know, those are the more meaningful names that go along with each one of these rows that we see here. So that is it for the third one. The third one is complete. So we'll move on now to the fourth one. Okay, so here we are with the fourth worksheet. The fourth worksheet is called Widgets Incorporated, and they would like to create some graphs to show or to go along with the schedule of sales data that is shown here. The first type of graph they would like to see is a 2D clustered column with the years on the x-axis and the sales dollars on the y-axis. The legend should show the region name north, south, east, and west. And the second type of graph they would like to see is a 2D stacked column chart with regions on the x-axis, sales dollars on the y-axis, and the legend should show the years 2009, 10, 11, and 12. So you see the legend for this one and the legend for this one are different. So we're going to show how to do that in a minute. You place both of these graphs directly below the schedule of numbers, and then the last thing that we'd like to see is trend lines or spark lines, as they were referred to in Excel 2010. These trend lines should be placed in column G and should be formatted in an easy to read, colorful format. Now for this last one, it depends on what version of Excel you have. If you don't have Excel 2010 or newer, don't worry so much about this. It won't take any marks off if you don't have the capability to do this last one, but I do want to demonstrate it here so you know how to do it. Okay, so let's do these two things here. I'll start off with the first one. So the first one is a 2D clustered column chart. Now the best way to start off doing charts is to highlight the data first that you want to graph. So this is the data that we want to highlight. We don't want to graph the totals here or here, but we do want the regions and the years and the values for the years. So to do a graph, we start off with insert, and we go over here to the type of graph we want, and then we want a clustered column in 2D format. So if we drop this box down, we'll see that clustered column in 2D is the first option that we have, and we simply click on it, and here is our first graph all done for us. So we drag it over here, and we can resize it, because remember we have to leave room for two of these, and we do want to set this up as a dashboard, so we do want to have a fairly compact display, and we make it this small so that we can see everything on one screen. Keep in mind the idea of a dashboard is so that an executive can look at the numbers, look at the graphs, look at the trend lines over here, and see everything that's going on basically in one screenshot. So we just check to make sure that our legend in this requirement here, our legend shows north, south, east, and west, which it does, and our years are along the x-axis, and our sales dollars are up on the y-axis. So we're good to go on this graph. Okay, so the next graph we want, the second one, is a 2D stack column. So again, we highlight our data and our years and our regions and everything first, and then we go to insert column, and this one is a stack column that we want, so we click on that, and there's our 2D stacked column. Now, one of the things we notice here is that this is not the legend that we want. This legend here is region, but the legend we want is in years. And actually what we want to show on the x-axis is we want to show the stacked columns for each region. So really what we have to do is we have to get these years over here and these regions down here on the x-axis. There's a button that's available to us to make that switch, and all we have to do is go up to that button, which is this one here, switch row and column, and click on it, and you see that it makes that transition for us. So we have the regions down here on the x-axis, and we have the years in the legend, and that's exactly what we want. And over here we have the total sales dollars by region, so we can easily see that the east region is doing the highest value in sales. So we're finished with this graph. We just have to resize it, and we'll move it over and kind of fit it into this space here. I'll just drag it up a little bit, and then I'll try to make it as even as I can with the size of the other one beside it. So you can see that we're building up a fairly good display here. We're able to see what it is that is shown in these numbers. We're showing it in graph format, and the last thing that we have to do is these spark lines over here. Okay, so in order to do spark lines, we're going to highlight the data first, and the data for spark lines doesn't include the names of the regions or the years. It just includes this centerpiece here, which is the data. So we go to insert, and we go over here to where it says spark lines, and we go to line, and we click on that, and you see, because we already highlighted the data, it already has B3 to E6 highlighted, and that's where our data is, in B3 to E6. And now what it's looking for is, where do you want the spark lines to be placed? So we want the spark lines to be placed here. So we highlight these cells, cell G3 to G6, and then we click OK, and the spark lines show up. And okay, so the last thing that we have to do with these spark lines, now that we have them, is just make them a little bit more colorful. We go back to the insert ribbon, we highlight the spark lines, and you see, if you go into spark lines, there's a few things that you can do to make them more colorful. Actually, in the design part of it here, there's markers that you can turn on. There's spark line colors that you can have to make them stand out a little bit. There's marker colors that you can set as well, and you know, maybe by mixing some of the colors and markers and different things like that, I'll just leave it up to your imagination how you want to display these. But the important part is that you can quickly look at these and you see the trends up and down and so on and so forth, and that's really all they're meant to be. So this sheet here is called the dashboard, and what we're trying to do with this whole display, once we're done of it, is we're trying to say that, you know, this would represent a kind of a dashboard for an executive person to look at, or you could print it out as a report, and it would capture not just the data, you know, the summarized data by region, by year, but it would also show some graphs as well. So this is the end of the fourth part, and this is the end of the individual assignment. You see here that we have the, going back just to recap, we have the goal sheet completed. This is the $2,500 monthly payment. This is the cost of the house that we determined. And we moved on to Solver. In Solver we want to maximize the total revenue. We did that at $42,2775. The next thing we did was Scenario Manager, where we typed in these three scenarios, and then we were able to produce a scenario summary, and that's what we see here. In fact, if you don't want to show the current values, you could just highlight those because they are the same as those, and we could clear the contents of that if you don't want to see it. In fact, we could clear out this number as well, and that's what we have as best case, worst case, and most likely. And then finally we did the dashboard thing, and that's what we have in the fourth worksheet. So going back to the cover sheet then, just make sure that you put your student ID in there, and that you put your name in here, and then of course save the file. So once you do that, make sure you do File and Save As. And when you do the Save As, you know, give it a meaningful name. You may want to put in your first initial, last name, and then you know, call it Project 2 or something like that. So first initial, last name, Project 2. You know, save it somewhere, maybe on your desktop where you're going to be able to find it. Click Save, and always make sure that you check up here in the title, the very title, to make sure that it is saved, and that way you know that you completed everything and that you did save it. Okay, so that's it for this week's online class, and I'll leave it at that for now, and I'll post this video.